Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's Alexander Hilly123 here, and it's time for a new video. And as you can see from the title, it is time for a new pickups video today. The first in 4 to 4.5 months on the channel. And as always, the rule is that I must show 5 games off that I've purchased. Usually it ends up being a little bit more than that, because I just end up buying usually about 7 or 8 games in between every 3 or 4 months. But I've not been buying that many new games in the last 4 months or so. I've been playing a lot of games that I already have. And although I'm down on modern gaming, I've been having a good time. But yeah, only 5 games to show off today. 4 digital, 1 physical. 3 of the 4 digital games are digital only, so it's not like I had a choice. I still like to get physical games over digital, but sometimes in the last gen, especially on the PS4, I bought games on a whim. PlayStation Store, and just got them digitally. Never regret it. Games like Days Gone, God of War, I wish I had a physical copy of. I've rejigged my gaming unit there at the back. I've got more space than I thought. I've even got space under my bed. And yet, and still, I got them digitally, and I wish I'd got them physically. I guess in the future, get them physically second hand really cheap, but yeah, it's all about the physical games. First up though, ladies and gentlemen, today, I'm going to be talking about Fall Guys. Yeah, because I got that for free on the PlayStation Store back in August when it released, as many people did. And even at the time when it came out, a lot of people and myself were interested in how they were going to future-proof the game. And perhaps the devs didn't even think of that themselves, because 3-4 months later, after it's been released, those servers are a heck of a lot quieter than they were on release. Making the game free on the PSN Store was a masterstroke. Everyone was playing it. This came just after I'd completed The Last of Us 2 and got all the achievements and then was in that world of misery. And this was a great palate cleanser. It was something happy and funny and silly. I don't play many multiplayer games. I'm a lone wolf, as I always mention, but I had a great time. You know, Fall Guys is heavily inspired by things like It's a Knockout, which I used to love in the UK, and Takeshi's Castle, which is one of the greatest game shows ever made, although you need Craig Charles on English commentary, ladies and gentlemen, the Scouse god that is Craig Charles, one of my favourite, like, he's an actor really, but he's a comedic actor, but I love a bit of Craig Charles in the drink, lad. But yeah, Fall Guys, the games where you had to rely on other people when you were in a team, they sucked overall. But when you were a lone wolf, every man for himself, the levels where you're like racing against the slime, or the knock ones where there's fake doors and there's real doors, they were sick. They were awesome levels and I really enjoyed them. But once I got every single trophy on the game, apart from the one for completing it 5 rounds in a row or whatever, because that is insane. Some people got that, fair play to you. I'm never bothering. I got nearly every trophy. I grinded on the game. But once I'd done that, I was like, okay, I think I'm done now. I don't really think there's anything else I want to see on Fall Guys unless they release brand new levels. And even like edit your own levels and shit like this, and to do more, and maybe private servers. These are things that people are asking for Season 2, and I wouldn't say that devs haven't listened. They've obviously not been able to incorporate those things into the mix, but it's a real shame, because I think they're going to struggle to future-proof the game. And I think within a year, there's barely going to be anyone on there. Great for the kiddies, though. It's a great kiddies game. I had a good time on it, but I think I'm done with Fall Guys for now. Hey, at least I didn't pay anything for it. Unlike the next game, ladies and gentlemen, another digital game, purely on the PS4. Don't think this is on the Xbox. But the fact of the matter is, this is a glorified Flash game. Because back in 2010, 2011, I remember being in a job which only lasted for like a year. I didn't get sacked because I was playing on this game there, but there was a game called Happy Wheels. Now, I'm not sure how many of you guys watching this video remember Happy Wheels, but it was a 2D Flash-based game. I wonder if it's still playable on the internet, although they're getting rid of Flash next month, you know. Yeah, Flash is not going to be a thing next month. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, it was a Flash-based game where you were on a bike, and you used to go through these obstacle courses, from what I remember, vaguely. And you used to get shredded by these traps and these spinning blades and everything. It was funny as fuck. The controls were awkward as hell. And basically, the next game I'm talking about is a 3D interpretation of that game. It's called Guts and Glory. I bought it on the PS4 because it was very cheap, £3. I saw the only friend that I've got on the PlayStation, mate I've got, I used to know at a workplace, not spoke to him for years, but he was playing it. I bought it, and this game is so bad, even compared to Happy Wheels. But you have to pay for this game, Guts and Glory. The controls are just so bad, and Happy Wheels was kind of frustrating, but in a good way, to sum it up really quickly and easily. Guts and Glory is frustration in a bad way. The levels are much more bigger and vast. The 3D perspective doesn't work as well, and it was just annoying. I got some trophies, I was grinding on levels for 2 or 3 hours, failing the same ones like 50 times in a row, and I just couldn't be arsed. You know, it's £3, but this game was meant to be £12. It was obviously on offer. Jesus Christ, I couldn't imagine paying £12 for this game. It should be free online, and you're paying like 12 quid for it. Madness, absolute madness, ladies and gentlemen. But ultimately, Guts and Glory, didn't enjoy it, uninstalled it, and I'd rather play Happy Wheels. But next up, ladies and gentlemen, the only physical game that we're talking about today. It's on the Xbox One. It is, as you can see, Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. And after the remake, remaster, whatever it is, of the trilogy released back in 2017, initially on the PlayStation 4 and then released on the Xbox, we were all excited as Crash Bandicoot fans to play this game. Overall, the reviews were good. Overall, I still think it was a good game. I think it does some things better than the trilogy did, but I also think it does some things worse than the trilogy did. So obviously, it's the only physical game we're showing off today. This pickups video should, in theory, be a little bit shorter than the usual ones, but who knows. But yeah, obviously I was going to talk a little bit more about this game than anything else in the pickups today. We'll talk about the pros first. First of all, graphics, the colours of the game, the music. Some of the level design in certain levels is brilliant. You get different characters to play as. There's that strong female one who's not going to be objectified anymore. I can't remember what her name is, but yeah, that one. You can play as Cortex himself. You can play as Dingo Dial, is it? Who swears in this game, by the way. This game has got a 12 certificate and he swears. I am absolutely perplexed at why they would incorporate swearing into a Crash Bandicoot game and force it to have a 12 certificate. Like, aren't you... Like, you know there's going to be ultra strict parents who are like, I'm not allowing my 6-year-old child to play this game. I mean, I think he says bastard, bollocks, and a few other swear words. You know, I was playing Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto at the age of 7, so... And there you go. But yeah, it's just such a strange idea why they decided to incorporate swearing. Like, has there ever been any swearing in a Mario game or a Sonic game? So damn perplexing. But of course, this is Toys for Bob, and it's their first ever Crash Bandicoot game. And overall, I think they stayed faithful to the series. Like I say, beautiful graphics, sounds, some levels are great. There are new masks, some which allow you to slow down time, flip gravity, and there's also one where the box is a see-through, so you'll just, if there's a platform and you press Y on the Xbox controller, it will turn blue. If you're above it, you will drop down and die. Some of those screw with your mind so much that if you're not a platforming player, if you're not a gamer, you will be in for a hard time. That's the thing with this game. It is incredibly difficult, and when you play this game for the first time, you will get an option of playing between either retro or modern. Now, needless to say, I remember watching one of my favourite streamers on twitch.tv, Freedog, Irish fella, top streamer, brilliant streamer, very entertaining. He played on modern and he played on retro. A lot of the other hardcore streamers, even Lord Harris avoiding the puddle, played on retro. Basically, retro, you have limited lives, you lose those lives, it's game over. Not game over like the old Sonic games where if you lost all your lives in your last level, you're going back to the start. You just go back to the level that you're on with Crash, but instead of, for example, 12 lives, you have the default 3, and then you lose them, and then you have to restart again and again. And I thought, you know what, I can't be arsed. I picked modern, and I don't regret a thing, because here are some of the criticisms of this game. The levels are too long. It's a tough, challenging game. There's trial and error. There's the usual Crash Bandicoot insane bullshit that we all begrudgingly love, but at the same time, they made the boxes too hard to get on this game. And it's an aspect of the Crash Bandicoot games that I've never enjoyed. There's 600 boxes in a level, and I end up getting 595, for example. I just feel so deflated. And then I look at the 5 that I haven't got, because there's videos, basically tutorials. Christ knows how these people get these videos out so quickly. But yeah, there's tutorials of people getting all the boxes, and you look at it and it's like, you've got to go well out of your way to get every single difficult box. The checkpoint system is iffy. Some checkpoints are good, some are bad. And you've got to do something very risky to get just one box on an awful checkpoint. It's just not fun. It's just not fun. The levels are too long. Some of the level design is frustrating. Some of the controls are frustrating. And I think those are my main criticisms of Crash Bandicoot 4. The bosses are okay. They range between pretty average and pretty good. There's a lot more checkpoints. And this is the thing with modern gamers. Oh, I'm going to play on retro mode. You're a scrub. Get good. All this kind of mentality. But what people don't realise is those bosses, the newer bosses where you get the checkpoints, they're in stages. Like 4 or 5 stages, most of the bosses, especially the late level bosses. But it's because they change up. So you'll be doing 3 different things within one boss, and you get the checkpoints, and that's just absolutely fine. This game was not easy. Even playing on modern, it's not easy. It would have destroyed me playing on retro, though. The amount of game overs would have just been ridiculous. The later levels, when you get close to the Cortex Castle or whatever, you're having to use like all 4 masks in one. So there's a part where you've got to do this spin attack, you've got to flip gravity, you're upside down, you've got to slow down time. It was fucking unbelievable. It took me about 3 hours to do. And then I looked online and people did it in the same amount of time on retro, so I'm obviously a shit gamer, but I did it. It's hard, but completing this game might be hard, but what's really hard about Crash 4 and all the other Crash games, but even more so this one, is completionist. If you're going for 100%, then good luck, my friend, because you are not going to escape with your sanity. It's insane, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, there's a time trials of the relics. You can do levels inverted as well. So like maybe the gravity is flipped or the colours are weird. It adds a level of replayability. But ultimately for me, Crash 4, I enjoyed it. But there's some aspects of the game that were a lot more frustrating than I was anticipating, based on just how long the levels are. Like the late levels, like way longer than they should have been, and the controls frustrating, but graphics, some of the gameplay, the bosses I enjoyed overall. It's a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10. But if I had to rank this amongst the trilogy, 3's my favourite. I still have a soft spot for 4. I've never enjoyed 2, mainly because of the ice levels, so I'd say I'd put this in my 3rd favourite Crash, and 2 is probably my least favourite, possibly. But now, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a year of redemption for certain games. I've made a thing of going back to games for a second time that I initially rage quit for different reasons. One of the many reasons being because I'm an absolute lunatic, and when I don't get my own way, I can rage. Well, we've all been there, ladies and gentlemen. But this year, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Sniper Elite 3, and Hotline Miami 1, I replayed after rage quitting and installing them years ago. I completed them all, and I enjoyed them all to varying levels, but I was glad that I went back and completed the whole game. Less so with Sniper Elite 3, but definitely more so with Rise of the Tomb Raider and Hotline Miami 1. I've reinstalled The Darkness 2, because that was another game I rage quit that I'm looking to complete and give a second chance to. Not every game is going to get the second chance, because some games lost me entirely, like Condemned 2, that was such a disappointing sequel, and Darksiders. There was a boss in that game that I nearly jumped out of the window took the console with me and started pummeling it. I'm going a bit over the top there, but it was so fucking stupid. That game made me rage. It was okay up until that boss, the control. I'm not going to get into it. Certain games don't deserve a second chance. But this is another game that got a second chance, and I was happy to give it a second chance by the time I'd finished the game. It's Metro 2033 Redux. And I also did my first playthrough of Metro Last Light straight after. So, last couple of weeks I've been playing both the first two Metro games, and overall I really enjoyed them. 2033, bit of a slower pace. It's not a pure survival horror game, but it's not a million miles an hour Call of Duty FPS fest. You have the option before you play 2033 and Last Light to play a survival or Spartan. Now Spartan is a bit more action orientated, so it says, and you get more filters, you get more ammo, health, etc, etc. I went on Spartan. I don't regret it. Apparently there is an achievement for completing both games on survival. Now when I played the original Metro 2033, it was 2015, I rage quit it about 25% into the game. I think I was on survival, but now I'm actually intrigued to go back and do it on survival. It's not going to be immediately, but definitely sometime within the next year I will complete both games on survival, mop up some miscellaneous achievements, and have a good time. Both games are atmospheric and pretty decent, interesting story based on the Dark Ones. And you play as Artyom, a guy who was born in the tunnels, because humans have gone down into the tunnels, at least in Russia, after the nuclear fallout. And it's actually more intimidating when you're on the surface, because you have limited oxygen. You've got to change the filters on your gas masks, and the masks can get damaged. You've got to swap out the gas masks. And it's heavily inspired by the Stalker games, which I have never played before, but I've seen people play them. I would love to play them one day. Of course, there is Stalker 2 coming out next year. That should have been a launch title for Xbox One X, in my opinion. That should have been a launch title. But yeah, Stalker 2, hopefully if that gets good reviews, I might get that. Those games are open world though. Metro 2033 and Last Light are ultra linear, old school ultra linear. The kind of games that aren't made anymore. It makes complete sense as to why a game like Metro would go slightly open world. Apparently Last Light is, not Last Light, Exodus, which I will now purchase in time, in a year or so, when the price comes down a little bit. It makes sense as to why you would make that kind of game semi-open world. They're pretty short games. They only took me 10 hours to complete. Interesting stories, great atmosphere, a real feeling of unease all the time, and it's kind of a depressive feeling. You know, at the end of the day, a lot of Eastern European people and Russians are like that. You know what I mean? Someone gets obliterated. This sounds dark, it sounds horrible, but it's the same in China. I used to go on a website called LiveLeak, which is watered down these days, and don't ask me why my teenage brain wanted to see this kind of material, but you could see videos of people, for example, doing horrible things, and over there, if someone, for example, is, how do I say it, if they're drowning, or if they're in front of a train trying to commit suicide, in other countries you will see a lot more empathy. In countries like Russia and China, these in the Eastern, typically old school communist countries, there's like no one gives a fuck. And I know that is stereotyping on a humongous level, but that's just the way a lot of those people are. A lot, not all. But that depressive kind of nature you feel in Metro. Going off a tangent talking bullshit there, but I think you might understand where I'm coming from. And I really enjoyed that dark atmosphere, and Metro looks a lot lighter and brighter, because all games these days are. Do you remember what Gears of War 1 and 2 were like at the start? They were just grey, and now everything's so bright and colourful. We need to get away from that, in my opinion, because not every game should be bright and colourful. Just my 2 cents. I know you wanted my 2 cents, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, the last game, not going to talk about this much because I've not started it yet. But did I speak? Yeah, I spoke of Hotline Miami 1 and how I gave it a second chance. But I never played Hotline Miami 2. Now, on the PlayStation, you can get it as part of the collection, but it's a bit more expensive than getting them standalone, but I think, if memory serves me correctly, you can't get Hotline Miami 1. No, you can't get 2 on its own on the PlayStation. I've already got 1 on the PlayStation. I think initially when I got my PS4 in 2016, it was actually free at the time. So that's how I purchased it. But I've got the Xbox One version of the collection because I want to play 1 again. Because I want to play 2 for the first time, so I just thought it was the best way to do it. It was on offer. I've been waiting for it to come down price-wise, because by default it should be 20 quid, but I've ended up paying 10 quid for it. So I'm going to replay the first game in the coming week, get a lot of the achievements. I've got about 40% on the PlayStation version, because some of them are really hardcore, and then I'll play the second game for the first time. Infuriating controls, but the gameplay is very fun. The music to that game is just brilliant. That 2D over the top camera perspective is brilliant as well. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. In terms of my next video and when that's coming, I'm not sure. To be honest with you guys, I've not really been feeling like making videos here on YouTube. I've not been feeling like streaming anymore. And I think I'm just going to let this year peter out, and then we'll see what happens 2021. The corona vaccine is here, motherfuckers. Take that tinfoil hat off. I don't care. Give me the vaccine 10 times over if it ends this fucking life of misery. But ladies and gentlemen, I might have a new video out soon. I'm not sure, but thanks for watching. Bye-bye.